Hi, and thanks for watching the Wild West of Education on ABC10+. I'm investigative journalist Andy Judson. For over a year, I've been looking into a charter school after whistleblowers came forward with allegations of lavish spending of school funds, a toxic work environment, and a lack of oversight. Highlands Community Charter and Technical Schools is an adult charter school funded just like any other public school with your tax dollars. And critics say the way the school operates is just one example of a bigger problem with charter schools. We spoke to dozens of employees and reviewed hundreds of records, and everyone we spoke to agreed the mission and need is great, but they all believe leadership is capitalizing off of students rather than educating them.
We have a winner.
This is not about education.
I can think of no better place to relax and see beautiful scenery. This is why we're going to San Diego.
It's about money.
We have a bevy of raffle prizes.
Do you think to yourself, is this legal?
Every day. The fact that we've gone on 10 years without everything coming out should horrify people. How well these secrets have been kept.
I know that things that are happening are not right.
Many of my colleagues refer to it as the Wild, Wild West.
Thank you for coming to Highlands.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
That was not bad. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, that's really good.
Highlands Community Charter and Technical School is no ordinary institution.
Is anybody here from Afghanistan? Raise your hand.
And its leader, Murdoch Smith, who goes by Doc for short, is no ordinary superintendent.
Anywhere else? Laos.
Highlands is a charter school for adults. Nearly 15,000 students go here. Most of them are immigrants.
Well, you're doing really good. Your English sounds fantastic. We're going to create this area. It will be a park like you would never see in a neighborhood like this.
Doc and his staff paint a happy picture.
Highlands is a place where people come to make a better life for them and their family. Good, how are you doing? The folks, these are the forgotten. This is the island of misfit toys.
Because of his
No.
you believe me, that's why I'm here.
But these were not the first Highlands employees we've met. In fact, at this point, we've been investigating the school for a year. Both on and off camera, we spoke to more than 30 of his current and former employees who tell us Highlands sometimes is not what it seems.
I'm a fourth generation teacher, so I always knew I wanted to be a teacher.
I just really saw how it can change people's lives.
They went to work wanting to believe in Highlands.
It was so fun, but it was a lot of work, right? But I love to do this.
The only thing that you need to know is yourself.
I just really wanted to be able to kind of like empower students through education.
The public school gets funding from your tax dollars. It's within the Twin Rivers Unified School District, and to attend, there's only 2 criteria.
Be 22 and over and not already have your U.S. high school diploma.
We agreed not to reveal the identities of some sources who were afraid of losing their jobs or retaliation.
For those who've never heard of Highlands before, what is it?
It's $1 million question.
Highlands is publicly funded but independently run.
In the state of California, public charter schools are exempt from a large number of the educational codes.
Charter schools are lightly regulated and the curriculum is flexible, sources explained. It's meant to be tailored to students. But teachers at Highlands tell us the flexibility has a dark side.
We now have 2 polar opposite extremes. One, typical public education in some ways is overregulated and too rigid. And then on the other end, we have charter schools that have very little regulation and too much freedom.
Charter schools are controversial. Some argue they hurt traditional public schools by taking a share of education funding away.
Do you have any questions about anything?
In 2008, the idea of Highlands Community Charter School was born out of concern.
The Great Recession was going on. Education was losing tons of funding.
Jacob Walker is one of the school's 3 founders.
Well, adult education is so important because what happens if they don't graduate high school? Adults kind of get left behind.
Over 10% of Californians do not have a high school diploma, the California Community College Chancellor's Office reported in 2021. As the recession hit, funding was drastically cut for adult education, so Walker found another way: create a charter school for adults.
To find a way to keep the service going for people.
Charter schools receive funding the same way K-12 schools do, but Walker argues Highlands adult students are not taking funds from K-12 because they would not attend a K-12 class.
It takes away some additional funding from California.
No matter which way you put it, though, it is taxpayer dollars.
It is taxpayer dollars.
Put simply, the money comes from California's education system. To create Highlands, they needed approval from the Twin Rivers Unified School District, and that was no easy task.
We had almost a full year of them not approving us after the adult ed had pretty much been devastated. I have to give credit. Linda Fowler was the one who was able to get it.
Linda Fowler is a longtime Twin Rivers Unified School District board member.
She was able to convince the new superintendent that we were a good idea.
Whenever you want to move forward.
As a school for adults, Highlands opened with general education and English classes. It also offers work skill programs like welding, truck driving, and cosmetology.
If you're in an area like Sacramento where you have a large immigrant population, you're probably going to have a lot of the English as a second language.
With one of the most diverse populations of immigrants in the nation, Sacramento has a great need for this kind of education. Recruiting them as students was crucial for Highlands' survival and expansion. That's because the amount of money a school gets depends on how many students show up. It's called ADA.
ADA means average daily attendance. No attendance, no funds.
In the first year, a few hundred adults signed up to be students.
By the third year, we were like in 1,000. It was a very fast growth.
And Highlands kept growing. As of September 2023, the school has over 14,700 students and 50 locations, records show. As it's grown, Highlands has been a source of income for Linda Fowler, the Twin Rivers board member who pushed to create the school. She joined the board at Highlands as the district representative in 2014, and then,
just a few months after approval, she went to a board meeting of the Highlands. Basically kind of an ultimatum, I felt, was like, here, I have this consulting contract, you're gonna pay me this much money each month, and it doesn't matter whether I do anything or not, then I still get paid.
ABC10 obtained the contract from September 2014. It required Highlands pay her a consulting fee of $390,000 over 5 years, in the sum of $6,500 each month, which must be paid, quote, regardless of the number of consulting hours provided.
I was very concerned about how the school district would view us with this corruption happening with their board member.
He was not alone. In a memo to the Highlands board 2 months after Fowler was awarded the contract, Highlands principal Kirk Williams wrote that he felt bullied by Fowler. He said Fowler made threats like, "It's because of me that the school got its charter. I can cause the school to lose it."
I did my best to try to stop it. At first, that didn't work.
Highlands canceled her contract in November 2014, but Fowler kept the $13,000 the school paid her. Months later, while serving on both the Highlands and school district boards, she voiced frustration at being asked to help the school. In an email she wrote, "I have no interest of giving away my work for nothing." Jacob complained to the Fair Political Practices Commission.
And it's basically the commission in California that investigates political corruption.
It was a violation of conflicts of interest, according to the FPPC. To win the consulting contract, they found Fowler used her official positions to influence the board decision in her favor. In so many words, they also said she should have known better because she has a law degree and spent 25 years as an auditor in state government. Jacob resigned in 2017.
I just couldn't stay in the organization when they continued to let corruption happen and just paid it off just as a corruption tax.
Even so, he still believes in the mission of Highlands.
I really just hope that people still see why what we started to do has value.
It's a sentiment we've heard over and over during our investigation.
That's the thing with Highlands. It's incredible, and the mission and vision are just like no other.
But the employees we spoke with are worried. Linda Fowler is no longer on the board at Highlands, but voters have repeatedly re-elected her to the board at Twin Rivers, the school district that holds the charter. And now she gets paid a salary from Highlands as a school employee.
She still gets paid as a site administrator.
Congratulations, Dr. Martinez, for your leadership.
Nearly every employee we spoke with said they're not sure what she does.
What it is she does for us, no one knows. How much money she's earning for whatever she does, no one knows.
Highlands records show Fowler gets over $106,000 annually in pay and benefits, and a government audit found more money flowing to Fowler from Highlands, almost $15,000 to pay for her attorney's fees. The 2018 audit flagged it as another potential conflict of interest and said without board approval, it was a gift of public funds, which are not allowed. We wanted to know how much work Fowler is doing at Highlands, so we filed a public records request for her emails. Those records showed she sent only 7 emails in 5 months from her work account. None have anything to do with site administration. In one email about a student at the school, a Highlands administrator did not refer to Fowler as a colleague or site administrator, but as a board member, saying that made Fowler's request an ASAP need. Beyond her emails, it's unclear what other work she's doing. We reached out to Linda 8 times by email, text, and phone to ask for an interview, and she declined to speak with us. So we sent her a detailed list of our findings with questions. She responded in part saying she hopes we will conform to journalistic ethics and not report on bias or accusations, and that we made several false statements, but she would not explain further or answer our questions. She referred us to the California Education Code that explains how the school district and Highlands are different entities, and neither can dictate how each other runs or who they hire, employees like her. But that's why sources we spoke with say charters like Highlands are the Wild West of education. There's little regulation, and that Linda is just one example of the massive lack of oversight.
There's a lot of waste happening. There's a lot of toxicity happening.
Present and past Highlands employees came forward for this investigation to warn of alleged corruption, questionable spending, and a toxic work environment.
Just constant fear. You just lived in constant fear.
All funded by hundreds of millions of your tax dollars.
People should know how their money's being spent.
And so we needed to talk to Doc.
I'm that superintendent who should never be one.
We brought concerns and allegations his own staff has raised to him.
I've never heard that ever. I take offense to it. The reality is it's vindictive to say that. I stand by the facts.
That's next on our investigation, the Wild West of education.
I've been so privileged to be a part of seeing people's lives transformed.
Ali Diaz has been a teacher for 30 years. What stood out about her time at Highlands Community Charter and Technical School was the students.
It's a lot of newly arrived immigrants.
It was very amazing for me to learn in this age.
Students tell us the school truly helped them adjust and succeed in the U.S.
It was meeting a need in the community that wasn't being met.
But as time went on, Allie felt the school's priorities shifting. She says leadership became obsessed with her class's average daily attendance, known as ADA.
ADA is money, just money, money, money.
It's the number that determines where your tax dollars go.
This is for all public schools. It's how we get our money, how many butts in seats, so to speak.
We spoke with over 30 current and former Highlands employees, both on and off camera, for over a year. Fearing retaliation, some of them asked us not to disclose their identities. For the 2022-2023 school year, California taxpayers gave Highlands $136 million for attendance. To get there, staffers say the school's leaders relied in part on promotional gimmicks shown in recordings of staff meetings that ABC10 was provided.
A lot of raffles and things for students who attend.
Every day that your student attends class, it will earn towards them earning fantastic prizes and also entering the grand prize, which is $500 value.
While we don't know exactly where those funds came from, the school's leaders knew that raffles could be a legal problem. A government audit found Highlands potentially violated the California Constitution by raffling off laptops, gift cards, and big screen TVs. Prizes all bought with your tax dollars, according to the audit, and used to encourage attendance. And it seems to have helped. Highlands has 50-plus sites with over 14,700 students, making it bigger than 12 of California's state universities. But it was more than raffles. According to employees we spoke with, Highlands also engaged in inflating attendance numbers.
I was being given lists of students, sometimes 20 to 30 a week, new students, all the time, adding to my roster and adding to my class. And then a lot of them wouldn't attend. I never had met them.
20 Highlands employees told us leadership pressured teachers to boost attendance reports, more ADA, more tax dollars for the school.
I don't want to put my credential at risk certifying something that I can't verify.
She even put that in writing. In an email to her supervisor, Diaz says, "I have never met the students and haven't seen their work."
And I just kept pushing back. Other teachers were facing the same experiences, but just because they were being harassed so much, they started just signing it.
She says she even brought this concern in person to the school's current top leader, Doc Smith.
I've never heard that ever. I take offense to it.
How are you ensuring that those attendance records are accurate? Because at the end of the day, you're getting ADA and those are taxpayer dollars. So this is important to anyone watching.
Hey, including me, I pay taxes. And that's what I'm saying. That's why our attendance system, we default to absent. If I was that compelled to say, let's falsify it, the easiest way in the world would be to reverse it like every other school district does.
So ultimately it's up to the teachers, it sounds like.
It is up to the teacher.
It's the teacher's
it is only up to the teacher.
So put simply, would you say that Highlands prioritizes attendance over all else?
Absolutely not. We prioritize our students.
Teachers told us they're concerned students haven't received the education tax dollars are paying for.
So do you feel that the quality of education was sacrificed for money?
Oh, definitely. 100%.
Elke Damison is another Highlands teacher who says she refused to alter attendance records. When COVID hit, she says Doc Smith pushed teachers to contact students.
Wait, so you're supposed to call 110 students every day?
Yeah. With any connection, they would basically be present.
A quick text or call, she says, would be the equivalent of a student being present in class.
So if you spoke with them in some manner, then you can mark them
present.
The stress over hitting attendance numbers compounded the stress of the pandemic itself.
I decided, okay, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to send an email to all the staff and the leadership saying that we need need to slow down so that we can give the best to our students.
Within an hour and a half of sending what she describes as a respectful email, she says her work email was disabled, cut off from her students and colleagues.
I texted 7 people in the leadership. I got no response. I realized I'm fired. That's it. They fired me.
She was not fired. 2 weeks later, she says she received her next paycheck, but was still in the dark. Finally, she says Doc Smith called her. After the isolation, she says he demanded control.
For the reason that you send an email, we had to cut you off. Every time you want to express an opinion, you need to come to me and I will allow it or not.
One teacher we spoke with said when she voiced concerns in an email to leadership about being overwhelmed, she was cut off from communication for weeks.
I'm not sure what you're talking about right now. I can certainly make our legal counsel available.
Smith tells his employees he welcomes their input.
We have an open door policy. I want you to know you can exercise that and there's no type of retaliation or anything like that.
Yet a current class action lawsuit accused Highlands of retaliating against whistleblowers, alleging Highlands reduced an employee's hours and eventually fired her after she voiced concern about discrimination. Staff members we spoke with came to see the open door as a trap.
Anytime anyone voiced an opinion or some pushback, that person would usually just disappear.
I've never worked anywhere where it is expected that you do not say anything that can even be seen as negative. But the proof is in the pudding that people are fired. That threat looms over all of our heads.
Multiple lawsuits filed against Highlands describe accounts of harassment, discrimination, and retaliation. And complaints to the California Labor Commission allege that Highlands failed to pay employees wages and expenses. One lawsuit that was settled alleged Doc Smith told an employee to adjust his attitude, threatened to fire him, and used a misogynist slur against him.
What do you have to say about these claims?
Not knowing what you're talking about in regards to cases or specificity.
Would you tell an employee to adjust their attitude or stop being a if they came to you with a concern?
No. I can guarantee that never happened. What's up, my brother?
He was adamant that Highlands is not a toxic place to work.
Well, there's the real boss right there. How are you?
We respect our staff. The reality is it's vindictive to say that. I do know that many of those staff members you talked to were no longer working at Highlands.
I mean, we have spoken with people who do currently work here as well. Yeah, many of those people also voiced concerns.
During our interview, Doc Smith kept wanting to focus on the former employees.
First of all, many ex-employees.
And current employees.
Some, right? But if you have 600 employees, you could have a couple that aren't loving you. Miss Dipshika, how are you? Good, how are you doing?
Yet, if you go to Highlands, you'll hear lots of love for Smith.
Say hi to Doc, that's the main
Okay, I got a joke for you. Do you know why the Mellons, you know why they never got married? Because they can't elope? I know, dad joke.
But staffers told us it's all a way to protect their jobs.
We have to praise him. We have to talk how amazing Highlands is.
It's almost an unspoken rule that during Zoom meetings, all staff meetings, you type in the chat how grateful you are. Thank you, Doc. Thank you, boss.
Thank you, Doc. I also,
I'm so grateful for Doc and his leadership.
A huge shout out to Highlands and our leadership.
Doc and Natasha, I want to thank you both from the bottom of my heart.
He's just got all these people like nodding and saying yes, and that's a great idea, and they don't question him.
Employees say Smith created a culture of favoritism. Those who give praise get on leadership's good side.
The ones that were Doc's buddies and who Doc liked, they were sent to good sites and they got into leaderships very quickly.
While some employees told us they love working at Highlands, others described it as cult-like, toxic, full of favoritism. We asked Smith about it.
We have over a 96% retention rate.
We call it the golden handcuffs at Highlands.
Dozens of employees told us they stay because of the students and how much Highlands pays, not the work environment.
So a lot of people, they turn a blind eye.
I don't know what they mean by that, but I can tell you the fact that we care about our staff.
Ready?
One former Highlands administrator agreed to go on camera as long as we protected their identity.
Yeah, so there are many ways there's toxicity.
This administrator worked alongside Smith and agreed to share their knowledge of Highlands' inner workings, including the strategy to boost attendance numbers and revenue.
Their language wouldn't be go commit fraud, but it was you need to keep these numbers.
No matter what it takes.
I mean, they didn't say that exactly, but that definitely was the message.
During their time at Highlands, this administrator estimates only 30 to 40% of students reported as attending class were actually there. While we weren't able to independently confirm that estimate, other sources questioned Highlands' attendance records. As for teachers who refuse to boost attendance numbers,
they would be labeled as someone who doesn't work well with people.
A path to no promotions, the administrator says. Meanwhile, some climb the ladder based on their connections.
Well, you look a lot like somebody else that works here. Do you know anybody else that might work here?
She's my sister, yes.
Pretty bad. I'll tell you what, if you're half as good as we got a good one when we got you, I'll tell you that.
Oh man, all right.
There are many family members and friends who are hired. That's how they hire.
The administrator said a board member's daughter was hired for a leadership position despite not having any education credentials or a bachelor's degree. This person makes nearly $200,000 in salary and benefits. And she's just one example. Based on accounts from sources we spoke with, we found at least 106 Highlands employees are related. 40 with parent-child relationships, 48 are siblings, cousins, or another relation, 18 married or dating. One of those employees is Doc Smith's own son.
But I don't think that's a bad thing. If he wasn't a good employee, I'd fire him.
Would you say that Highlands has a problem with nepotism?
No. Do we hire the right person for the job? Yes. I like you. I mean, you want to come here and slit my throat, whatever you want to do, I don't care. I mean, I care, but I want you to have the truth.
Our on-camera interview stretched for nearly 2 hours. He denied most of the allegations against Highlands, though he did admit that he hired an employee for his front desk and then hired her family.
If that's nepotism by definition, but not by productivity, they are amazing. No one's supervising their family. That's what the law says.
Sources we spoke with question this, saying family members were in the same reporting chain. Related or not, sources criticize other close connections happening at Highlands.
How things were handled was so contingent upon your relationship with leadership.
Many staffers told us if they were not on leadership's good side, they felt boxed in. Highlands has no mechanism for employees to report problems confidentially.
If you write an email to the HR email, Doc is on that.
Are you on the emails that HR receives?
Yes.
It's not just HR issues. Smith told us he gets copies of all emails between groups of his employees.
Because when I took over, it's hard to get information, right? Because especially as you grow. 95% I just delete. But there's some, there's a need, how come we're not addressing it?
And so who do I complain to? I can't complain to HR because he will receive the email. I can't complain to the board because their kids work here. It's absurd that it's had to come to this, to going to the media, when people have been trying for about a decade to get attention about what's really happening.
After Smith became aware of our reporting, he made his expectations explicit. He repeatedly told staff that they have, quote, a duty of loyalty to Highlands.
All employees' loyalty is due to the company of which they work.
After our interview with Smith 3 weeks before we aired our investigation, Smith addressed our report in an all-staff meeting.
Yeah, you may or may not watch Channel 10, but they're going to do a report on Highlands. It's probably not going to look good. It's a bunch of bull.
The way they made you feel that they knew everybody and kind of controlled everything definitely made me fearful. For 6 to 8 months, I was considered severely depressed. Oh, it's been really, really hard on my mental health.
I left Highlands before I knew what my next career move was going to be.
I took a job that paid $20,000 less just to get out.
It's going to be an extravaganza beyond all extravaganzas.
We'll be grappling up prizes all the way till 5 p.m. tonight.
We're talking $140, $150 million.
Did I know it was going to be expensive? Yes, I did.
It's flashy. It's saying, look how much we have.
This is not about education. It's not about students. It's not about serving the community. It's about money.
Everyone, please welcome on stage Mr.
How about that? You guys having a good time?
Welcome to Around the World,
Oh my goodness, we should have served alcohol.
an event honoring the culture of students from Highlands Community Charter and Technical Schools.
We have students from over 90 nations that speak over 50 languages.
Sacramento is home to a diverse population of immigrants. As an adult charter school, Highlands recruited them, mushrooming to an enrollment of nearly 15,000, making Highlands larger than half of California state universities.
The teacher, the classmate, all school is nice. It's a great opportunity for migrants.
With each student, Highlands wins more government money.
We have a winner.
Big events bring big attendance.
Our absentee rate has gone like 50% lower by doing these inclusive events.
And attendance brings more money.
Attendance is really important for us for funding, but I would say this, if you're not at school, you're not learning. And so we emphasize getting people to school. We spend a ton of money on that.
A ton of money that over 30 past and present Highlands employees told us they're concerned about.
Do you think to yourself, is this legal?
Every day, especially with the money that we seem to have endless supplies of.
Highlands Charter School is a public school, meaning your tax dollars pay for it and its events, like around the world.
How much did this cost?
If I had to guess, probably around $25,000 to $30,000.
Yet records show that Highlands paid $38,000 to a balloon company for decorating services alone.
It's taxpayer dollars with very little oversight.
Round of applause for our director,
Just 5 weeks prior to the event, Highlands leadership sent staff to San Diego for professional development.
If you've never been to the Hyatt Manchester in San Diego, it's, one of the 2 or 3 best hotels in California. Arguably one of the best locations on the water.
The mandatory trip for over 500 Highlands employees included flights to San Diego and a 3-night waterfront hotel stay.
We picked a premium place because I think we have premium staff.
The cost, around $2 million, board minutes show.
We went to San Diego. Not because there was some event or conference there, it's because Doc had an idea.
Doc looks over and says, the mad scientist that he is, he says, why don't we have a staff professional development in San Diego?
I would love to hear from taxpayers, see what they think about that kind of idea.
Next year, this time we're coming back again!
Past professional development trips were at Lake Tahoe.
It was picturesque, honestly.
Highlands gets millions in government grants for professional learning.
I always try to spend it as quickly as you can.
I'm spending money. Sometimes the state decides, gee, they didn't spend it.
Exactly.
Even back.
We don't want to give it back, so we want to have a plan and spend it.
But staffers say the trips felt more like vacations.
There's nothing in my mind that stands out as helpful in terms of my professional development.
Unnecessary, utterly unnecessary trip. It was a party to celebrate Highlands.
Recordings of staff meetings provided to ABC10 by our sources show schools leaders echoing this sentiment.
It's going to be probably more fun than professional development.
I can think of no better place to relax and see beautiful scenery, access to restaurants. This is why we're going to San Diego. To enjoy yourself. You've earned it.
I mean, I think to someone watching this, it sounds like a vacation.
I just disagree. They went through intensive training, legal training, sexual harassment training.
So you stand behind $2 million.
100%. And if people enjoyed themselves, I think that's part of learning.
In addition to a trip for his staff, Doc Smith told us he wanted to go to San Diego to get more enrollment for Highlands. He says he had an idea to recruit employees of the hotel they stayed at as new students.
I think it's genius, and I think the taxpayers are going to be excited about the results.
The school's executives and board members have also traveled to places like Maui, Pebble Beach, and France.
Those are pretty expensive destinations. How do you justify going to those places as a business expense with public school funds?
We have to do that because we have to survive. Those places aren't vacations. That's where our politicians are going, and we have to go to say, look at Black Caucus, look at Latin Caucus, Mr. McCarty.
In short, he said these trips were needed to lobby for his school.
You have to go there to get the word out. It's just not a bunch of throwaways.
We reviewed 2 years of Highlands expenses and found they spent over $3 million on travel, including over $335,000 per diem, nearly $300,000 in airfare, and nearly $1 million on hotels in places like Vegas, New York, Texas, Napa, Nashville, and New Orleans.
If we don't attend those things and make our point to those people, and that just happens to where these meetings are.
Like at Pebble Beach, records show Highlands board president traveled there for golf at the Governor's Cup tournament, and that the school paid the organization $80,000. Trips are not the only nice things Highlands paid for. The school bought new Google Pixel flip phones, which retail for more than $1,000 for its employees.
And we pay for all the service, the texting, the internet, the hotspot, and voice. You can't even get that plan. You can't buy that plan.
Every student also gets a Google Pixel phone and service plan.
I'm buying 19,000 of them.
This flyer shows Highlands used the phones as an incentive to boost attendance. The site with the most attendance would get their free phones first.
What do you think of Highlands?
Nice school, very nice school. Learn English and get a free phone.
And then there's the bonuses. At this publicly funded school, employees got $20,000 each in 2023.
People were mad at me for giving the same amount of bonus to the janitor that I did to a teacher. I don't know why.
That's over $10 million in bonuses for their 500 plus employees.
Do I need that money? Yes. Does it feel good? No. It feels gross to me to accept that money when our school districts are struggling so much.
Highlands has paid big bonuses for multiple years.
That's extravagant compared to other public schools.
It's prudent and shrewd.
He said other public schools are wasting money.
Wasting nothing.
Between the salaries and bonuses at Highlands, the pay for these public school jobs is incredible.
We call it the golden handcuffs at Highlands. So a lot of people, they turn a blind eye, and you don't speak up when you hear and say and see certain things.
We found full-time Highlands teachers' pay and benefits averages to over $107,000. That's not including the annual bonus.
Highlands pays everybody very good money.
But the highest paid employees are those at the top. The 15 principals average over $160,000. Yet just one out of the 15 have an administrative credential. This credential and a master's degree are required for principals at non-charter public schools. Working with our sources in the school's organizational chart, we made a list of the school's top leaders. In pay and benefits, those 18 people make an average salary of $223,800. Only 10 have at least a bachelor's degree, records show, and only 3 have leadership experience at an accredited education institution outside of Highlands.
Are you familiar with the term non sequitur? It means irrelevant.
Critics say charter schools' lax laws allow Smith to hire and promote people who serve his best interest, rather than the school's.
Several conversations and meetings, they prefer to hire people without degrees, people who are not in education, and that was done purposely so that they would follow the Highlands way.
The California Charter School Association says charters offer more flexibility, creativity, a different approach to public education.
They meant charter schools to do things that were creative, out of the norm.
Without charter's more flexible hiring model, Doc says he wouldn't have a diverse leadership team.
Because there's not the people in the pipeline to do it. Because they don't have the credentials. They're working on it now, but they can do the job.
Between salary and benefits, Doc himself makes over $348,000. Compensation similar to several district superintendents in Sacramento County.
It's very clear he does not understand anything having to do with education.
Doc Smith does not have a bachelor's degree. He has no teaching credential, no administrative credential, and he spent his career not in education, but as a parole officer. Smith retired after 29 years at the California Department of Corrections.
So you're a teacher, huh?
Even so, he got the job running Highlands Charter School, making him one of the top-paid public school administrators in the region.
And this former police officer with no education or training gets to make almost as much and control perhaps larger budget. It's very troubling to me.
What qualifications do you have to be the executive director of Highlands?
I don't know. I took this job after I retired. I was on the board as a part-time position because we were bankrupt. Now we're one of the most successful schools in the country. I love this school. I love who we serve. I think that qualifies me.
3 former members of Highlands' leadership team told us Highlands also has employees with titles like special projects coordinators and consultants.
They wanted to make connections in the community, and this way people were hired on it, but it was buried down in the books. They wanted to stay politically connected.
And we have a lot of people on staff who we've never met, we don't know what they do.
We don't employ, we don't have any consultants. We just don't have anybody on contract like that.
We found that's not true. In Highlands' contract with their vendors, they've paid 7 different agencies specifically for consulting services, over $415,000 in just 5 months.
So you deny that Highlands hires people that are buried in, the books just because they're influential?
But I would say this, the word education is a huge word. And so sometimes people think, well, they're not a teacher. They think everything else other than that is non-contributory to education.
Doc said he hires community advocates, and one comes from the NBA, former Sacramento Kings player Harold Presley.
From Mystic, Connecticut, number 21, Harold Presley.
Doesn't come to school every day, but he's unbelievably impactful with our alumni services, going to meetings with us.
What we have here at Highlands is truly beautiful.
He's hired because he has a name, the next king. He's worth his weight in gold to us.
Records show Highlands pays Presley just under $100,000 annually in pay and benefits. The school also sponsors a new sports show that he hosts.
Welcome to the Highlands Sports Roundtable.
Former Sacramento Police Chief Daniel Hahn is also on the payroll, along with California Black Chamber of Commerce CEO Jay King. Both are special projects coordinators and make well over $100,000 annually in pay and benefits. When we reached out, Hahn and King referred us to Highlands. Presley never responded. Highlands also sponsors passion projects of its leadership team. In 3 years, the school paid $140,000 to a youth basketball organization founded by their assistant deputy director, which, as a school for adults, Highlands students are not qualified to participate in. Some staff we spoke with say these are examples of misplaced priorities, saying Highlands has money to pay for big names and non-academic projects, but not to buy basic school items like textbooks.
We were told we couldn't order that many because administration was still not totally sold on books for students. We don't prioritize education.
I help my students, honestly, out of my own pocket.
As Highlands Homeless Services Coordinator, Lindsay had a lot of responsibility, but says she never had a budget and had to find money through donations and grants. And yet...
And look at how much money you had.
We found Highlands reported budgeting over $1 million for homeless services and documents filed with the state.
I don't understand it. A lot more students could have been helped.
After all the concerns we voiced today, especially from your employees, why should taxpayers trust you and that your school is providing the services and education that you say you are?
I think any taxpayer or non-taxpayer, you come to our campus and then you come and look at me and say, what a waste. I'll shut it down right now.
Welcome to the first inaugural Doc Smith Legacy Foundation Golf Tournament.
Highlands also has a sort of booster organization, a nonprofit called the Doc Smith Legacy Foundation, created in 2020.
The Doc Smith Legacy Foundation would like to invite you to the second annual Taste of Highlands.
Employees were asked to donate during official staff meetings. It's on recordings obtained by ABC10.
Get this, staff. If every employee donated $40 a month to the foundation, the backbone is really how our staff supports this foundation.
I think I gave $100 a month.
Was that because you believed in the foundation, or was that because you
I was trying to keep my job.
It was very clear that, like, if you were signing that you weren't contributing, you were going to hear about it. There was going to be a consequence, you know?
Would you say that you do pressure employees to donate?
No pressure, we ask. 65% or 70% of our employees don't donate to it.
He says the foundation is a commitment to education and pays for students not qualified to attend Highlands.
We did $200,000 in scholarships last year.
But a recording of a staff meeting reveals the foundation also helped pay for events during that San Diego trip.
Plan some really cool stuff like a black tie dance. This foundation's gonna provide some really great stuff for you.
The foundation being the Doc Smith Legacy Foundation that employees are asked to donate to out of their paycheck every month, that we are told 100% goes back to students.
Everything that is made for the foundation goes directly back to the students.
That means staff donations paid for part of their own required work trip.
This is a mandatory training.
Others believe it's just another way to raise money off students.
Raffle prizes, Taste of Highlands.
Money that ends up in Doc Smith's orbit.
I feel that my students were used to make money for a school, and I didn't want to do that.
That's next on our investigation, the Wild West of education.
We're adding a lot of people, we're adding sites, registering over 200 every week of the year.
Where are all these beautiful people from?
I think we got 54 sites now.
I also want to commend Doc for being a great leader.
Yes, I'm the executive director.
Doc Smith, the leader of Highlands Community Charter and Technical Schools, talks about growing enrollment a lot.
We're growing when everybody else is shrinking.
Like all public schools, Highlands gets money for attendance. For this school year,
$170.2 million in revenue.
A lot of money for a lot of students. Highlands has around 15,000 adult students. Most are immigrants. But there's a problem, employees say.
For the amount of money Highlands is receiving, do you feel like that is reflected in the education that students are getting themselves?
Look at their graduation rate. It's abysmal.
For the 2022-2023 school year, records show Highlands served over 16,000 students in person and online. Of that, around 2,000 were eligible to graduate and only 448 did. That's just 20%. The school also offers trade programs like truck driving, but only 6% of students got a job in the field Highlands trained them in, records show.
Adult education has low graduation rates.
These students balance families and jobs. Even for adult ed, Highlands' graduation rate is way too low, this administrator says.
It's just that number that actually benefits is so small for the amount of money that's coming in.
And yet,
and we just had another site in San Diego. We just opened in Oakland. We just opened in San Pablo, Richmond area.
A 2014 law allows Highlands to operate outside its school district, Twin Rivers Unified. So, this charter school from North Sacramento keeps growing, opening sites across California.
During staff meetings, we would always hear, there's a campus opening.
More sites means more students. More students means more money. Critics inside Highlands tell us the school's leaders are capitalizing off of immigrants rather than truly educating them.
They come here because it's safe. It's a place for them to have a better life. That's what the taxpayer wants from their education system.
He insisted students do get the education tax dollars are paying for.
This school belongs to you.
On its website, Highlands says one of its core values is to save taxpayers money. But in just 5 months, contracts show the school spent over $21 million, including over $8 million on technology.
Technology, coupled with human greatness, is going to get us where we want to be.
That's great, but are you giving the teachers what they need to actually be successful in the classroom? Because I never saw that.
With all we've learned, our students are now receiving Google Pixel phones.
Smith says he bought 19,000 Google Pixel phones for students, but only 448 graduated last year.
We have absolutely zero consistent or reliable data that is linked to student outcomes.
So as more sites open, who ensures the school is truly educating its students? Who is monitoring how tax dollars are being used? 3 organizations are supposed to be minding the store.
All right, we're going to call this meeting to order.
First, Highlands has a board of directors. The school's policy says the board must approve consulting contracts over $100,000. We sat in on the last 6 months of Highlands board meetings and found the board appears to have little involvement in the spending. So we filed for a list of contracts where Highlands spent $25,000 or more and found there's funds going to a lot of different places. In 5 months, Highlands spent over $415,000 on consulting contracts, those records showed. Per their policy, the board only needed to approve just one of those items, a $130,000 contract. And yet, we could not find any approval for that contract in the board's meeting minutes, after reviewing all minutes for the last 4 years.
I remember sitting in board meetings, a point of inquiry for a lot of different people was like funding, like where is this going?
The board is not overseeing the school's spending, sources say, giving Doc Smith free rein. The school's fiscal policy also shows his spending power. Smith signs all check and bank accounts, approves grant submissions, and, quote, oversees the adherence to all internal controls. Unlike a school district board, the 9 charter board members are not elected.
I'll move that we keep Mary on board.
I'll take a second.
Oh, okay, my arm's been twisted.
There's no limit to how many times they can be reinstated.
Mary, welcome aboard again.
Only 4 have experience in education, their bios show.
We have board members whose children work here. Why would they regulate anything that impacts their children?
2 board members are the parents of Highlands employees, sources say.
But cops marry cops, teachers marry teachers. But we don't have a nepotism problem.
Nepotism or not, this makes staffers afraid to go to the Highlands board. Several told us they also don't feel they can go to the Twin Rivers Unified School District, the second organization that's supposed to oversee Highlands.
We were instructed not to talk to Twin River, and they would come. We were given kind of like talking points.
Twin Rivers Unified School District authorizes Highlands charter schools, but with locations 500 miles away, we wanted to know, how does the district regulate those?
There's new sites being opened all the time. Whether there's actual students and teachers there, none of us know.
We found Twin Rivers doesn't know either. Records show in the last 6 years, the school district has not visited a single site outside of Sacramento. In January 2023, they visited only 5 Sacramento sites out of the 50 across the state, all on the same day. Twin Rivers declined several requests for an on-camera interview. In a written response, the district said its oversight exceeds the legal requirement. But staff we spoke with said Highlands and Twin Rivers are too connected for the school district to provide real oversight.
Some of the people who work, they are board members for Twin Rivers.
Like Linda Fowler, who we introduced you to in part 1. The longtime Twin Rivers board member is also a Highlands employee.
What it is she does for us, no one knows.
When asked, Fowler sent us the education code saying Twin Rivers does not dictate Highlands' hiring decisions. And Highlands also paid over $36,000 to the consulting business of the former Twin Rivers Superintendent Bill McGuire for just 5 months of work, records show. But the biggest issue with the district, our sources say, is when Highlands makes money, Twin Rivers gets a share.
We make Twin Rivers money.
When a school district authorizes a charter school, the district gets a percentage of the school's annual funds. It's called an authorizer fee. Over the last 5 years, Twin Rivers received over $9.5 million from Highlands Community Charter and Technical Schools, records show. And it protects Highlands from district scrutiny, our sources say.
The money helps the districts, so that would be kind of like a lifeline that you would take away.
We asked how Twin Rivers can provide oversight while getting millions from Highlands. The district said it goes well beyond oversight requirements by doing annual reports and interviewing Highlands school officials. That's why the district is entitled to an authorizer fee, it said, which, quote, does not present a conflict. For our investigation, we spoke with over 30 current and former Highlands employees both on and off camera and brought their concerns to the school district. Twin Rivers responded, saying there may be those who feel compelled, for whatever reason, to make allegations and cultivate chaos and distrust in an effort to undermine an organization or its leaders. The district said it's gotten no formal complaints from employees, but if someone did submit a complaint or concern, the district admitted it wouldn't necessarily act, but the complaint would be referred back to Highlands.
Nobody can believe that these kind of things are happening. They go, well, that can't be, that a school can't operate that way. That's not possible, right? And because we have audits.
5 years ago, Highlands got a serious audit, one that usually makes school administrators nervous. It came from the county Fiscal Crisis and Management Team, known as FCMAT.
Once a FCMAT is initiated, usually schools are shut down.
Highlands wasn't, even though the FCMAT audit flagged all kinds of problems, from sexual harassment to potential fraud.
And it was due to, I believe, political connections that it stayed open.
Highlands puts time and money into keeping political ties. During our interview, Doc Smith told us the school's leaders took trips to Maui, Pebble Beach, and France for lobbying reasons.
Those places we go to, because we have to convince legislators. It's the cost of doing business.
In addition to those travel expenses, the school spent over $652,000 on lobbying and legislative groups between July and November last year, its records show. The FICMAT audit said it had insufficient evidence to prove fraud at Highlands, but the audit relied on voluntary information and statements from employees.
Anytime anyone voiced an opinion or some pushback, that person would usually just disappear.
Employees who told us they're afraid to speak up.
That threat looms over all of our heads.
Even so, the audit gave repeated examples of what it called illegal fiscal practices.
It did identify serious internal practices.
We brought them to the California Department of Education.
Irregularities in instructional days, inconsistent testing.
The department would not go on camera, but did give us a phone interview with its head of PR, the deputy superintendent of public instruction, and charter school division director.
We take this very seriously.
They repeatedly pointed us back to the Twin Rivers Unified School District.
Twin Rivers is the charter authorizer.
So by law, Twin Rivers would be the reviewing agency.
The district that makes millions in charter fees from Highlands.
The Twin Rivers Unified School District is responsible for monitoring.
So the district, as the authorizer, would be required to review and analyze that.
What's your message for the Department of Education?
Wake up. Wake up. They have kicked it back to the local level, which is standard, in public education. But when that local level is also and part of the system, it doesn't work.
So if Twin Rivers is not doing their job, does it become your job to step in and make sure Highlands is effectively using taxpayer money, since that also comes from you?
We have reached out to the charter school, the district, and the county office of education.
The department took action after we reached out. 6 days after we sent them some of our findings and a list of questions, they sent a notice of concern letter to Highlands, the Sacramento County Office of Education, and Twin Rivers Unified. In it, the Department of Ed listed our findings, and for each one, the agency asked Highlands for documents, budgets, rosters, and policies. In the last few weeks, Highlands provided the documents requested by the California Department of Education. ABC10 filed for and received what Highlands gave the state agency, and while we're still going through it, we already found inconsistencies. Highlands told the state agency they had 9,600 students enrolled in September 2023, yet the school responded to our public records request saying they had over 14,700 enrolled at that time.
I'm curious how many complaints the Department of Education has received from staff of Highlands.
We're not aware of any Highlands staff submitting complaints to the California Department of Education.
And yet,
I thought, I better just reach out and see if I have any legal, leg to stand on.
Emails between the Department of Education and Allie show they should have been aware for years.
Again, I was just telling them, I'm telling you, this is actually happening.
In the February 2022 emails, Allie told the department she was being asked to sign attendance for students that were not there. Many of us are concerned and do not want to put our credentials at risk by signing and or falsifying documents, she wrote, asking, is this legal?
And they said, well, then you need to go to the county superintendent. A lot of times we'd take it as far as we thought was safe to, but didn't want to put our jobs in jeopardy.
Where she definitely could not go, she says, is her bosses at Highlands. Yet, that's right where the Department of Ed defaulted back to.
They can notify the school administration. So they could direct a complaint to the charter school governing board.
So I think a lot of them have expressed concern going to the board.
Highlands specifically, they have a large board. And so if an employee is struggling to get resolution internally at the school level, they do have that governing board level.
Lindsay Curtis did go to the Highlands board.
Yes, my name is Lindsay Curtis. And up until last month, I was the Homeless Services Coordinator at Highlands.
She was one of the few Highlands employees who agreed to speak on camera while employed there.
I get funded by taxpayers. They're who I'm accountable to.
4 weeks after our interview, Highlands eliminated her position, saying they were restructuring. They gave her 2 choices: take a different position she did not want, or quit. She resigned and a month later spoke directly to the Highlands board.
Highlands eliminated without explanation the school's only homeless services role, even with more than 1,500 students experiencing homelessness, and having just made a documentary video highlighting the services I helped provide and paying $300,000 to an outside production company for that video. All while I was never given any budget over the years to help students experiencing homelessness. Highlands doesn't tell you why they're firing or restructuring you, but my guess is I was too vocal or wasn't agreeable enough. What I do know is that the culture is cult-like, the quality of education doesn't get near enough respect, attention, or resources from upper management, and the spending is often exorbitant and irresponsible. Highlands has hundreds of talented and educated supervisors, teachers, and other staff, but their expert voices are never heard.
None of the board members responded to her concerns. Instead, Highlands board member Sandra Betancourt ended the meeting saying,
But you should all have great pride in yourselves toward building this to be the great institution that it absolutely is.
She's the board member that's in charge of reporting complaints like Lindsay's back to the Twin Rivers Unified School District.
I also want to commend Doc for being a great leader.
Lindsay also provided each Highland board member with her concerns in writing. That was 4 months ago. She says not one of them wrote back.
Where are all these beautiful people from? Any taxpayer or non-taxpayer, you come to our campus and then you come and look at me and say, what a waste.
Over the last year, one after another, Highlands employees reached out to our investigative team.
Today, over 30 have come forward on and off camera
to make a stand for education.
In fact, many took a risk speaking with us and sharing information.
You are a whistleblower, you're employed there. Would probably be safer and easier to not speak up at all today.
I care about education and our students.
Not one called Highlands a waste. All believe in the school's mission.
You have to trust in yourself.
Highlands does beautiful things, and I want that to continue, and the world needs that to continue, but leadership has to do better.
Leadership. That's where they say waste is happening.
There's a lot of waste happening. There's a lot of toxicity happening.
Highlands leadership says hundreds of millions of your tax dollars are spent educating immigrants.
The reality of what's happening is really a sad story.
In reality, few are graduating and getting jobs.
It's going to make a lot of people angry, rightfully so. They need to pay attention.
With little oversight, our sources call this charter school the Wild West.
Many of my colleagues referred to it as the Wild Wild West.
So, in what seems a lawless land of education, they ask, who is Highlands and its money truly benefiting?
On January 23rd, Twin Rivers Unified School District, the entity that granted Highlands their charter, held their first board meeting since our report aired. ABC10 was there as 9 people spoke directly to the board with their concerns of what our investigation uncovered, including current Highlands teachers.
The scandals detailed in the evening news are disconcerting, but not surprising. I am close to several employees who were terminated just for speaking out. At Highlands, employees are reminded that we are at will, meaning that we can be terminated at any time without cause or notice. I fear certain retaliation for speaking publicly tonight, but I can no longer remain silent. Finally, Highlands pressures teachers and paraeducators to inflate ADA.
Respectfully, you are paid to provide financial oversight at Highlands. Please look into the attendance.
The Twin Rivers Teachers Union president also expressed concerns and asked the board to hold Highlands accountable. None of the board members responded, so we asked Twin Rivers Superintendent Dr. Martinez if he had any comment.
Do you mind if we just ask you a couple of questions? Do you want to hear if you have any sort of response to all the teachers that came directly to you and spoke to you on the board today? You don't have anything to say to them?
Well, I think we'll always do what we always do when we hear any issues and complaints. We'll follow up.
Okay, great. Can we get any elaboration on what exactly we expect to happen in a follow-up?
For me to anticipate what to happen would be every taking yeses, but we would follow up like we do most, if any, employees within our opportunity. I mean, there's only certain things that we can do as the chartering district.
You are
but-
the oversight committee, though.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
For,
But they
for a
also,
charter school that has hundreds of millions of dollars, do you think they're spending that
but the
properly?
charter school also has a board, and so the board also is exclusive to the charter school.
Right,
So
but
we're
when
not
we went to the
exclusive.
California Department of Education, they specifically said you're the entity in charge of
Yeah, I
providing oversight.
We're not going upstairs.
I mean, it's.
We're not going upstairs. That's their offices.
Many viewers had questions about charter schools after seeing our investigation, so I reached out to Dr. Frank Adamson. He's researched education and its systems for over a decade and has provided his findings to agencies like the U.S. Department of Education. His work has appeared in over 40 publications, and we spoke to him about California's complex charter system.
I kind of look like at the United States as 50 different countries, really 13,000 little school district countries that we have to study. You know, we have local school boards and they run the show.
School boards run the show for traditional public schools and charter schools in their districts.
Charter school is a charter between a school and the authorizing agent, which would be usually a school district.
Where it gets complex is while many charter schools are overseen by a school district, they can also operate independently.
So they function autonomously. A lot of times schools want to claim the public just because they receive the public money, but that doesn't really tell the whole picture.
Sometimes the charter school will call itself a public school, other times a company. Adamson says he has seen charter schools cherry pick how they define themselves.
So when there is a desire to convince the public, you hear the term public charter schools. When you're trying to convince an audience of funders that your approach is very innovative, you will hear the term, we're a tech-based company.
It's something we noticed with Highlands.
Technology coupled with human greatness is going to get us where we want to be.
How Highlands Charter School spends millions of public school funds was a main focus of our investigation. We reviewed 2 years of Highlands expenses and found they spent over $3 million on travel.
So in a nonprofit charter school, you can funnel monies in different ways. When I look at a budget, I'm looking to see, are those monies going to the classroom and will they end up benefiting the student, or are they benefiting the management side?
Like high salaries for the charter school senior management. We asked him about the salary of Highlands Executive Director Doc Smith.
Would you say $350,000 in pay and benefits for a year would be among those lines of a high salary for a leader?
That seems like a high salary in education. My salary is public, and I'm a professor at Sac State, and I don't make anywhere close to that. I do want to bring up one other thing that you didn't have in your notes, which is I went through the listing of leadership, and it struck me that there was a lot of correctional facility expertise.
For example, Doc Smith spent 29 years in corrections, not education. And out of the 10 Highlands board members, half come from law enforcement and corrections. It's something Adamson saw when researching charter schools in New Orleans.
So I get very nervous when I see possibly a correctional approach being applied within the education system.
Another aspect of Highlands that drew his attention was that the school has really no competition for students.
The theory is that charter schools will compete against each other and the public schools, and that competition will produce better results for students and families.
Because it's an adult school, it's not necessarily like other schools within Twin Rivers competing for those students.
Yes, I mean, Highlands is an unusual situation. It's a very niche area within education sector. And so I don't know what the incentive is for a Highlands or any institution to improve when there's actually nobody else out there to do it. And that's the fundamental approach of the system.
That was just a small part of our in-depth conversation with Dr. Adamson. You can watch the full discussion at abc10.com/Highlands. That's all for now, but this is a story we'll definitely continue to follow for a long time to come. Look for updates here on ABC10 and abc10.com. I'm Andy Judson. Thank you for watching the Wild West of Education on ABC 10 Plus.